Respected scholar, my elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all the names listed on the screen and Kul Marhamin Al-Fatiha. Ayat Yujibun is requested for all the names listed on the screen and whoever is in need of it here and elsewhere. We will recite this together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibu al-mustarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amman yujibu al-mustarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا وطبيب ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, all of you are doing well. Eid Mubarak. May Allah accept all of our fasts and our hajat in this holy month. And may Allah give us the tawfiq to be able to celebrate the holy month of Ramadan next year as well. We want to continue with our series that we left off with before the month of Ramadan. So let's just quickly recap. Actually, before we do that, there were some questions left over from some of the sessions that we did during Ramadan. So because there were, I think, 2 or 3, let's finish those questions first and then we'll continue our Thursday night series, inshallah. So if they can bring up the questions from Slido that were left over, then we'll go through that and then we can go through our sessions, our our Thursday night speeches again. Okay, so I'll just start. Okay, there we go. The first one was, is it lagh to sleep during fasting in order to pass the time? So obviously this was related to when we were in the month of Ramadan. Khair, I guess it's still important to discuss it anyway. So remember, we said lagh was something which basically became useless. It didn't help us achieve our goal of becoming more God conscious, more God wary. So if somebody is sleeping and they're not getting closer to God, their soul is not being perfected, they're not using it as a means and as a springboard to become a better individual, then in that sense it would be lagh, right? It wouldn't be haram. Obviously we know you get thawab, right? We get rewarded for doing so. But that really is to emphasize perhaps fadila, the virtue and the benefit of fasting itself, not necessarily the sleep part of it. If somebody, however, is doing and napping or sleeping, but they're doing this in order to gain more energy so they can perform more ibadat, right? They can worship more, or they know that maybe they're getting a little cranky because of their lack of sleep, so maybe they want to take a quick nap, and they're doing this for the sake of God. Then obviously at that point, then sleeping then becomes a real ibadah, and it can help somebody get closer to Allah. So perhaps even we can extend this to outside the month of Ramadan as well. We know that there are mustahab times to take a nap, like qaylula, for example, which is either before dhuhr time or after dhuhr time, right? And it's makruh to take or to sleep at all from asr time, all the way until afterwards, until evening time. So if a person's sleeping in order to gain more energy, to gain more clarity, to gain more focus, to get their moral compass back in order so that they treat people the way they should be treated, right? Maybe they have a problem of lack of sleep. Then even maybe those naps would have more of a God-wary or God-conscious type of connection to them. Next question is, what are some examples of religious acts that can be turned into lagh? Anything, right? A person who prays, recites dua, who recites Quran, that can be lagh. Now, we're not saying that it's haram, right? There are specific rules for what makes a religious act haram. For example, praying, if you pray and your act of prayer is done for the sake of somebody other than Allah, it's for riya, it's meant to show off, then according to our maraji', this prayer doesn't count, it's not accepted, and also you're getting a ma'asiyah and a sin for that. But when we're saying lagh, we're saying that it's not building you up. So a person could be reciting a nasheed or poetry, right, for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, reciting Quran, anything, any sort of other ibadat that there are, but they're not doing so for the reason of making their soul more perfect. They're not doing it to become better in the it becomes time getting to. Would you distinguish between the music instruments versus lyrics? If the lyrics are bad and the music is not, would it make a difference, or vice versa? So sometimes we don't have to, even when we put it in terms of lyrics, just think of words itself, right? We know that there are some haram and halal words, right? There's some words you can say and there's some words you can't say. There's some things that you can listen to, words, and there's some things you can't listen to as far as words are concerned. This whole idea of lyrics doesn't really matter in that sense. If somebody is speaking profanity, if they're backbiting, if they're slandering others, making fun of others, they're not allowed to do that. So obviously, it doesn't matter whether it's being put to a beat or not, or whether there's a melody or not. If somebody's backbiting, it's haram to listen to that anyway, and it's haram to do it. If somebody's doing it and there's a beat behind their backbiting, then it's going to even make it worse if the beat is haram, right? In that sense, or if the music's haram. So yeah, there is a distinguishing factor there, obviously, but I mean, at least the haram lyrics part, the haram words part should be fairly obvious. So if the lyrics are bad and the music's not, would it make a difference? No, because you can't listen to it. Unless you listen to the instrumental, which if you really like the beat, I guess you could, as long as the beat's not haram. If the lyrics are bad, no, you can't listen. You can't listen to words in that sense. Okay. And again, I hope it's understood then that haram music has its own criteria for that as well, which I think was one of the other questions as well, right? Okay. Who is foro? Foro. I have no idea. I don't know what foro is. If the person, whoever submit that question, if they could reword it, and then maybe if we have time later tonight or next week, we'll try to answer that, inshallah. So sorry, I don't know what that is. Maybe it was a typo. How do you differentiate halal music from haram music if most music today can be used in non-halal gatherings? Again, we gave the criteria in that speech. You can go refer to the details. We gave the criteria according to Ayatul Sistani. Now, of course, but we said that it's not just about it can be used in a haram gathering, right? Somebody could take a lot of the nasheeds that are out there, right? Maybe even certain recitations of Quran, maybe even certain types of nohas or poetry, latmiyat, and they could probably play it at a bar or a club and people would probably enjoy it. It's possible. Just because it can be used there doesn't mean that's what makes it haram. It's not about can it be used. It's about is the primary focus and design for it to be used in those gatherings, right? And it's not about me to differentiate. It's about you. You are the muqallid. You are the mukallaf. It's up to you to understand the urf, the customs and the habits of people around you. And what do they think? Do they think classical music is primarily meant for haram? Do they think rock is primarily meant for haram? Do they think hip hop is primarily haram? Each individual could have a different answer based on their research. In the same way, it's very similar to smoking, right? This is called tashkhis al-mawdu'. Every person who follows a marja, the marja gives you the general outline for the ruling, the boundaries. You and I have to go and apply it in our society. And that's why we mentioned, if you remember, it's possible that certain songs are haram for us here in the United States, but maybe they're allowed for people in Iran or Iraq because they don't have that association with haram gatherings. Right? Maybe it's not the case. And vice versa. It could be that a certain type of noha or latmiya in somewhere overseas, maybe that's haram for them. But when we listen to it over here, we don't associate it with a haram gathering, so it would be okay for us. It's up for every single follower of your specific marja. You need to go and do the research to see what is the main primary association for that kind of music. What was it designed for? Okay. What is allowed in Islam? I think that was just answered, but again, if you want the details, please go refer back to the last lecture that we gave in the month of Ramadan. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ala. Okay. Again, we'll try for the same format as we did before Ramadan, where we will have our main topic. Afterwards, we will have a short little quiz. And I just realized that I forgot to send the questions to the media team, so forgive me. We'll have to skip the quiz tonight. And again, I think we've already spent about 10 minutes or so doing the questions from last week. So we'll reintroduce the quiz, I guess, next week. And then if we have time also, we'll try to take care of your questions on Slido. All right, inshallah. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So our Thursday night sessions, we were trying to answer this question of how we can adopt an Islamic lifestyle. How do we live an Islamic life? Within that, there were different discussions, right? One, we talked about first that our thinking and our beliefs lead us to choose specific actions. That's what we mean by lifestyle, right? We've picked up over time a set of interests and opinions, behaviors and orientations. We put all of those together. That's where we get a value system and we have an identity. That identity then informs our actions. It basically decides what we're going to do in every single situation. So the main question then we had is, okay, well, does Islam give us all of these values? Does Islam actually have its own lifestyle? Does it always offer us a way for us to think, a way for us to behave, different orientations, right? What exactly is our religion? What is it out to do? So the way that our first subtopic was defined, well, after we talked about lifestyle, what is one? Now we have to figure out what is, if anything, is there such thing as an Islamic lifestyle? More importantly, does Islam offer something like that? Meaning, is Islam part-time or is it full-time? Because many out there are saying, look, Islam is not trying to figure out every single situation. Islam doesn't really care. Okay, it gives us boundaries about what we can and cannot eat, but it doesn't really care carry what kind of diet you decide. It doesn't really it's not concerned with what kind of house you buy. Islam's not concerned with what career path you choose. As long as it's not a haram one, then do whatever you want. Islam is not directly involved with lifestyle stuff that we're talking about. And in other words, this is a bare minimum or a part-time Islam. It's not meant to define every single thing in our life. It gives us some values, but that's it. It doesn't really take care of everything in our life. So this is one of the questions that we have to answer. So we're discussion. So the mission now, as far as this subtopic, is this. What expectations do you and I have from Islam? Or for that fact, or for that matter, what expectations do we have from any religion at all? What expectations do people have from religion itself? Start off with a kind of a story or example to make this point more feasible for us to understand. I think many of us, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and if you were a kid of that generation, especially, there was a few things that kind of defined what you liked, right? I think we pretty much all shared the same interests. One of those main interests was martial arts, right? Kids, boys love martial arts. Myself too. I love ninjas. I loved ninjutsu when I was younger. Maybe it was from all the ninja movies that came out in the 80s and 90s. Probably because of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All the stuff that was happening then, right? Just that ninjutsu culture was so cool. So obviously, I wanted to learn. I wanted to be a ninja, right? Just like a lot of kids around that age. Maybe even your kids right now, they want to be ninjas or they want to learn ninjutsu. So obviously, there weren't really too many teachers trained in the art of ninjutsu, especially in the 80s and 90s. I couldn't find anything in New Jersey. So I had to settle for taekwondo, like most other kids have to. All right, and I did what I had to do then. Now, what kind of expectations did I have going into learning taekwondo? Or for that matter, what type of expectations do we have learning martial arts? I mean, for me, it was pretty simple. I wanted to learn how to beat people up. I wanted to learn how to defend myself against bullies or people who would bother me. Right? That's it. It was just about the physical. I wanted to fight people, and I wanted to stop people from hurting me. That's all it was. Now, most people may or may not know, most martial arts systems, they're called arts in the sense that they offer actually a complete way of living, right? Taekwondo, jujitsu, ninjutsu, aikido, all these different things. There's a philosophy behind that, right? That's why, for example, look at the samurai. They don't just say that I know how to fight like a samurai. There's a code, the code of the Bushido, right? Or the Bushido code, the way of the samurai. And for those of you who have seen the famous movie from years ago, the Tom Cruise movie, The Last Samurai, you would have seen how they dedicated themselves to a certain level of discipline. This was the way of the samurai, right? Bushido. It was a level of honor. There was some dignity behind it, discipline, chivalry, etc. Most martial arts offer that. There's a philosophy and wisdom behind it. But most people are not interested in that. They just want to learn, how to use a sword and nunchucks and how to fight. That's about it. So then our expectations about martial arts will change what we can get out of it, right? I'm not going to, for example, if the typical way that you and I understand martial arts, I'm not going to go out when I'm grocery shopping and think about my taekwondo when I'm about to pick what kind of ice cream to get. That's silly. But for somebody who lives by the code of the Bushido, or the code of ninjutsu, or the way of life of aikido, whatever martial arts they wholeheartedly accept, then when they go shopping, if they're about to pick out ice cream, then that's going to tell them how they're going to pick, what they can and cannot eat. Because a whole life system has been defined by their martial arts. In religion, it's the same thing. People today follow different trends when it comes to religion. Let's look at a contemporary example. If you can send a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Think about the issue that's been on all of our minds for months now, right? This Corona, COVID-19, this whole pandemic. Some of us think that, look, we need to know, what does Islam say about this? Why does God cause evil in the world? Or why would he cause a pandemic? I mean, our places of worship, right? Our centers and masajid and churches, synagogues, whatever it is. These places where God is trying to be worshipped. Why would God put something in the world that would shut all of that down? This is, for example, the first time, well, not the first time, but many people in the back of their mind, they've been looking to have this idea of a unified Eid, whatever that means. Now, most people in the world, we're celebrating Eid on the same day. And now what happens? We can't really go out and do it, right? It's about drive-thrus and drive-bys and social distance Eid Mubaraks and phone calls and things like that. So I'm ironic. After all this complaining and searching and looking, we all want to get together on one Eid, God's kind of laughing in our face like, look, maybe you don't deserve it. Maybe that's why we had to deal with this kind of social distance Eid. Who knows? So some people are always looking for answers about how to think about every single little thing, including these modern day issues. What am I supposed to do? Should I go take a flight right now? Should I go to the grocery store? I don't know. Instead of asking doctors, asking the CDC experts, they're going to, Sheikh, Maulana, what do I do? Do I go out or not? Should I go see my family or not? Does the Quran have anything to say about it? Have the Ahlul Bayt addressed the idea of pandemics and viruses? Others say, look, Islam doesn't care. Yeah, we know that God did everything. Fine, He's behind everything. I get it. God, we love you. But He doesn't care about these little details. Listen to the doctors. Listen to the medical experts. They'll tell us what to do and what not to do. What does God or the Maraji or the Ahlul Bayt, what do they have to do with COVID-19? Nothing. Stop making religion involved in every single little aspect of our life. You know how on one end we see somebody who's ready to do istikhara for every single little action, right? They, before they step out, maybe they want to go get groceries. They might say, well, I have to make sure God is okay with it. So let's do an istikhara. Okay. Now they get outside. Well, should I take my car or should I get an Uber? Istikhara. When I get to the grocery store, should I wear gloves? Istikhara, istikhara, istikhara. Now we could devote a whole series to the concept of istikhara or the way that it's being abused in our communities, but maybe we'll leave that for another time. The idea is this. We're talking about the lifestyle choices that people are making. My thought as a person who's in this mindset, God is behind everything. Religion is trying to solve everything in my life. So I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. It's a noble way of thinking, isn't it? We don't want to judge the person. If they believe that religion has the answers to every single little thing in our life, then of course you want to know, what is God's opinion? What does the Quran say? What do the Ahlul Bayt say? What do the Marajis say? What do the local scholars say? Of course you want the religious advice. But again, this idea is known as a maximal understanding of religion. It's full-time. God, religion, Islam, it's going to handle everything in our life. Whether it's food, drinks, schooling, parenting, how to make a building, how to cook, what clothes to wear, what colors are better. Every single detail will be defined by Islam. That's the maximal Islam. Others say, look, there's a minimal part-time understanding of Islam, which is God is saying, look, be a good person. There's a few different things we don't want you to do. These few foods, don't eat it. Don't take interest from people. Otherwise, go do whatever you want. I don't really care. So that's a minimum or minimal part-time understanding of Islam. Hopefully now this is what we mean, and it's understood what we mean by maximal full-time Islam and then minimum or minimal part-time Islam. This is what we want to start examining and going back and forth over time to discuss in these Thursday night series. What way should we be approaching religion? Now, not everybody is going to be explaining this in terms of these specific words, maximal and minimal. Sometimes we'll talk about Islam being a way of life, a complete way of life. It's all-encompassing, it's comprehensive. For those who believe and are scholars who believe in the minimal one, they might use the idea of Islam, the rules that we see in the Quran, they were for a specific time and a place. They're not for today. Or Islam has two different things. It has a form and it has an essence. The essence will live on eternally, but the form will change in every single time and place, right? So when we're listening to others speak, you can catch on those keywords to see what point of view do they believe in as far as Islam. And even in our own communities, we'll find different types of adherents and different types of followers, right? So we want to go through all the different arguments of the minimals, right? And the maximals or the maximalists, right? Minimalists versus maximalists. We're going to go one by one for all the arguments and to see, do they actually have any weight or not, right? We're going to do this in an academic way. If they have proofs from the Quran, we're going to argue them. If they have proofs in the Hadith, we'll bring them forth. If they bring rational arguments, we're also going to look at them. We won't just take the way that we've been raised and just say, well, that's what the elders say and that's it, we're done. That's what they say in the Hawza and that's it, we're done. No. We want to try to look at it in a very open-minded and academic way, inshallah. This will take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. There are whole volumes and volumes of books and lectures dedicated to this topic. Obviously, we can't go fully in depth. But we want to cover the topic enough so that people are at least aware of the different arguments that are offered. So whether they want to accept the minimal or the maximal version, at least they know the arguments from the other side. So that way we're not addressing others in a very arrogant or ignorant or stubborn manner. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If you remember, last time we also started with this. We wanted to also discuss the history behind this movement, because we said that, look, previously all people thought that Muslims and Christians and Jews alike, pretty much everybody in the past, they all had this belief that religion, God, or previously the gods, they defined every single little part of our life. So everybody in the past had the maximal full-time understanding. Is a time we see that so many individuals, progressives or liberals, rationalists, whatever word you want to use, I'm not concerned about the pigeonholes that we create, especially if we're trying to be insulting. We don't want to do that. Why has this movement started to come out very recently, right? So we want to look at the kind of Saiyid, right? The way that throughout time, how these things have played out and how these things have changed. So every single day, what we're going to do is a part of it. Every single Thursday night, we're going to talk about a little bit of the history, primarily the European history, where all of these discussions started to happen. And then every week, we'll go through a different time period and discuss what exactly was done, what were the causes, what were the effects, and what were the results, and how did that kind of lead to where we are right now. And we'll try to take some points as well about what we can do to think about the issue. We have about 5 minutes left. Let me see. I think we'll have to, because of the time constraints. Let me see. Are there any questions right now? If there haven't been any questions that have been put up, then I'll just spend the next few minutes on this. Okay, so there's nothing right now, right? Okay, since there's nothing on Slido, then let's just do a few minutes of this history, and then we'll pick up next week, inshallah, right? So what do we want to do? There's 5 specific time periods that we're going to go through week by week. The first time period would be the Middle Ages, also sometimes known as the Dark Ages. Then we're going to talk about the Scientific Revolution. After that, the Enlightenment. Then the Industrial Revolution, the 19th century. And then finally moving on to what's happened from the 20th century till right now, which sometimes is called the age of globalization, the age of technology, or generally speaking, the modern age or the modern ages. So every week we'll try to quickly summarize all those different ages, and then we'll take some points for us to reflect upon. So let's talk about, for today, the Middle and the Dark Ages. If you can send salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the Middle Ages were when? Generally speaking, they're from about the 5th century to the 15th century, right? So we're talking about the 400s to the 1400s, something like that. Although plus or minus a couple hundred years, it's not a big deal. Another way to think about it is the start time is approximately the fall of the Roman Empire, and the end time is about the time of the Renaissance, right? Something around that time. So what is in the minds of people then? Religion was the main function, right? Religion is the main lifestyle. It's the way that you live your life. There's very few anti-religious people. Of course, we see that it's the churches, the popes, right? They're the ones who are running everything. They have complete authority over all of the European Empire, or the various empires that existed, right? You had the Western Empire and then the Eastern Empire. So pretty much it was the church or religions that were defining everything there. So based on that, especially again in the Western Roman tradition, Roman Catholic tradition, everybody believed this, that all truth and all reality is defined by God. From God, it comes down to the pastors, priests, reverends in the churches, or the Pope directly. And then the church tells us what we have to do and what we have to believe. So if the church tells us that God created the world in 6 days, well, that's what we believe. That's reality. If God, through the church, tells us that the sun rotates around the earth, then that's what we believe. That's reality. That's truth, right? If there's a contradiction between science on one hand and then religion on the other, if they're clashing, now when I say science and religion, what we really mean is religion, meaning the church or the pope and the priest, and science or whatever some scientists said. If there's a clash there, then what do we prefer? We prefer religion. We prefer our church, what they say. Now, at this point is where science and scientific discoveries started to become more and more popularized. Now, again, the Muslim world was something different. Forget that. We're talking about the European Christian world right now. The Islamic world had some other issues going on, which we're not going to discuss today. Primarily because Islam never really divorced itself in that sense from science. It did happen, but it's because of what happened in Europe. But we'll get to that later. So, in this time, then what happens? Faith has more value than science, right? Faith is greater. The church is greater than science. Now, what happens there? Because of all these superstitions and misinterpretations of the Bible and of religious beliefs, you started to see a lot of contradictions, apparent contradictions, between the church, what the church was saying, or what they believed God was saying, and what the scientific discoveries were. So when that happened, there were two natural results. There was a positive trend that developed and then a negative trend. What was the positive trend? The positive trend was that Christian philosophers now became more and more prominent. More Christian theologians started to delve into philosophy so they could respond to these scientists' claim. They could refute them and object to their issues. So they came to defend Christian theology. And if you look in the books of these many Christian, famous Christian philosophers, they did an excellent job of doing so, right? So you can talk about St. Thomas Aquinas, also known as Tommaso d'Aquino. You have, for example, William of Ockham, right, who is famously defined or has made this idea of Occam's razor, although that's been misinterpreted over time. You have St. Augustine or Augustino or Augustinus, all these famous ones who came and defended Christianity, defended the belief in God and all the other ideas within that, but coming from a philosophical, rational perspective. This was the positive trend. But there was a negative trend too. The negative trend was something known as the Inquisition. What was the Inquisition? No, many of you have studied this in school, you know. What happened were, because that these corrupt religious figures and authorities wanted to maintain their power, everything that they saw that the scientists were saying, right, because the scientists now were refuting what the religious authorities were saying. So they saw that as an attack on their power, an affront to their authority. So the Inquisition was checking people's belief, their aqaid, their belief system. They were imprisoning and torturing and punishing and killing these either scientists, excommunicating them, people who had heretical beliefs, right? So it was a very dangerous and scary time. Even many Jews and Jews and Muslims were killed because of this horrible Christian Inquisition that was happening. They were trying to intimidate everybody into believing that the church has the right to say whatever it wants. Don't believe these scientists, don't believe anybody. Even the philosophers were going under attack as well. So what were the overall results of this then? After all this time, then of course people, after witnessing this disgusting trend in history, this horrible time, this dark time in history, they started to move away from religion and towards science, right? They said, look, religion can't tell us about the world, only science can. People got sick and tired of religion, right? So the whole society, and you see this now, you see the results in Europe, the whole society withdrew from the idea of religion. So at one point, what totality was what? Religion went from complete and absolute authority to pretty much nothing, almost overnight, or over these years that the Inquisition took place. Now, a point for us to think about is this. It wasn't outsiders. It wasn't atheists. It was Christians themselves, clergy, right? Priests, the popes that were there, the authorities, the Christian authorities, the followers, the so-called religious people. They were the ones, because of their terrible akhlaq, their bad actions, their corruption, they were the ones who ended up causing people to leave religion. They caused religion to be destroyed and for people to go and start to worship the idea of science. Think about that idea. What do we do in our own communities or our own households? Do we set up some sort of Muslim and Islamic Inquisition and start attacking people for describing other beliefs which are not orthodox or not traditional? Do we get scared when our children start to question our traditionally held beliefs that we had? when they start to ask why are the ma'sumeen infallible, it doesn't make sense? Or are we inviting and trying to have nice discussions, academic discussions, like those Christian philosophers are trying to do? Think about that for ourselves. Next week, we'll talk about a few more akhlaqi reminders and points that we can take away from this point and this trend in history. If there maybe is one question from Slido, I think maybe that we have time for one. If not, then we will end. No, there's nothing there. So next week then, we will go through some akhlaqi points about this session, right? Of talking about how in the Middle Dark Ages, how this trend, what are some takeaways that you and I can have, how we can change our own behavior, and how we can change our behavior with our family and with others. And then we will move on to the next period, which would be the scientific revolution. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin, wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلهي يضم البلاء وبرئ الخفاء وانكشف الغطاء وانكتى الرجاء وزاكت الأرض ومنت السماء وأنت المستعان وإليك المشتكى وعليك المعول في الشدة والرخاء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أولي الأمر الذين فرضت علينا طاعتهم وعرفتنا بذلك منزلتهم ففرج عنا بحقهم فرجا آجلا قريبا فلمهر بس أو هو أقرب. يا محمد يا علي يا علي يا محمد اكفياني فإنكما كافيان وانصراني فإنكما ناصران. يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الغوث 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 أدركني أدركني أدركني. الساعة 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 الأجل الأجل الأجل. يا أرحم الراحمين بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا صار الله وابن صار والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وأعطيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونحيت عن المنكر وأتاك الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سميت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامخة والأرحام المتحرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ودك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والألوة الوسكى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأوشد الله ملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سميت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه، السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله ووداءه، السلام عليك يا أنصار دين الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح، السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم وتابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن السيد الوسيين، السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقوابهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر ولق الدافع عن أخي المجيب إلى طاعة رب الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل، وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان سيدي الأمان الأمان الأمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمن جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.